Item number 14 is Pacific Gas and Electric informational overview of the Pipeline Safety Program. Diana.
Good evening. Joe Wilson with PG&E is here tonight to present an overview of PG&E's Pipeline Safety Program. Joe, would you like to come up?
Thank you, Diana, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Joe Wilson. I'm the governmental relations rep for PG&E for the northern part of our service territory. And this evening, I'm happy to be able to present PG&E's Pipeline Safety Program. At PG&E, our number one responsibility is to ensure the safety of the public as we deliver clean and efficient energy to over half of California. The program that I'm going to be briefing the council on this evening focuses on our high-pressure gas transmission lines. Thank you. I think we'll actually go. As you can see from the agenda, what we'll do is we'll look at the pipeline safety initiatives, introduce the program, talk about how we're working collaboratively with our customers as well as municipalities, review the ways that we're communicating with our customers, and then we'll discuss replacement and restoration options. Over the last 4 years, we've accomplished a lot of work in terms of replacing our gas transmission pipeline that has been antiquated, testing and validating the strength of existing pipelines through hydrostatic pressure testing. In fact, I remember seeing Councilman Buckland at one of our open houses about a year ago here in Yuba City, as well as installing new automated valves in areas that have high population densities. So while we continue to make progress along in those areas to make our gas transmission system safe, we also realize we have an obligation to ensure that the high pressure transmission mains stay safe. So in 2013, we launched a program called Pipeline Pathways. And what this program did was it used GPS technology to, with very precise accuracy, pinpoint the center line of all 6,750 miles of our gas transmission lines. We placed new markers over the pipelines so not only PG&E employees but members of the public could clearly identify that, hey, there's a gas transmission line there. And no doubt you've seen those orange and white striped paddle markers as you've driven around the area. The third component of this program is we've worked collaboratively with cities and counties as well as our customers to identify conflicts that are located either on top of or adjacent to the pipeline that could present a safety issue. Some of the conflicts that were identified included structures that were built on top of the gas line or in the utility easement, as well as materials that were stored in the easements. In some areas, it was a log deck that was placed over the gas transmission line or gravel construction materials. Other conflicts that we identified included trees and bushes that have woody root structures that can wrap their roots around the pipeline and cause potential stress and corrosion. So our program's goal is to ensure that our system and the public stays safe by removing the conflicts that are 10 feet from the center line of the pipe on both sides or less, and then replacing the trees or bushes that are removed in an alternate location that doesn't present a conflict. The Pipeline Information and Informed Planning Alliance, or PIPA, is an industry group. They issued a report in 2010 that detailed the best practices for gas transmission operators. And that's what we're working to accomplish as a company, is we want to bring our operations into line with industry best practices. As a company, we wanted to see some solid data about the potential impacts of tree roots specifically. So we commissioned a scientific study with Fresno State. And the results of the Fresno State study were very surprising. In fact, in 75% of the instances, when tree roots had significant contact with the pipeline, it presented a higher risk of corrosion and it could damage the external protective coating of that steel pipeline. Of course, all of us have seen trees that have blown over in storms, especially, well, maybe not last winter, but in most winters we'll get a lot of rain, some high winds, and trees will sometimes blow over. If a tree had its roots wrapped around a pipeline just like this, and it did blow over, it could cause catastrophic structural damage to the pipeline. So If the key word to this program is safety, the next key words would be collaboration and then communication. When we identify a conflict that presents a safety issue, first of all, we reach out to the local agency, Yuba City in this instance. And then we'll reach out to property owners who live within a 500-foot radius. Our communication includes letters and telephone calls to property owners, and before any work is done, we'll have a signed agreement with the municipality or the property owner to remove that conflict. We anticipate beginning some of our telephone calls to our customers in the Yuba City area in the next week or so. As shown on this map, in the dark blue lines, PG&E has approximately 20 miles of high-pressure gas line in Yuba City. And the green highlighted sections are areas that we've identified conflicts. So it's not the entire city, but it is spread across different sections. So again, when we identify these conflicts, we have a process where we kind of analyze the threat level. So in each of these areas, we've identified approximately about 100 city-owned trees and right around a little over 200 private property trees. And some of them, in fact, the vast majority of them are 6 inches or smaller, fairly young. So what we do is we will go ahead and kind of rate what the threat level is to that particular conflict. And there are different factors that come into play in terms of distance to the pipeline, types of soils, type of pipeline, pressure of pipeline, wind load, all sorts of different things that we will go ahead and look at before we make the decision to go ahead and work with the property owner to remove that conflict. Other areas that we're also working on is we're working with city staff, including the city manager, Mr. Krager. I know we've had a number of telephone calls and several meetings with him, as well as the public works director, to ensure that any removal or restoration work that happens in city-owned franchise areas is done in compliance with city standards, and as well as our restoration plan. One of the things that I had mentioned to Mr. Krager on the phone the other night was, we know that, in fact, the last item was the city has your new economic development plan. And one of the things that you had adopted within that plan is to kind of grow your image. We're going to see what we can do to use our restoration options as part of this program to help grow the city's image. And we'll work with city staff to try and see where we can make this program sync up with the city's goals. So when it comes time to remove trees or bushes, again, we'll work with the private property owner to get permission to remove the vegetation, and then we'll restore the area with low impact grasses, shrubs, mulch, or bark, as well as provide at least one replacement tree to be planted in another location that doesn't present a conflict. We take our responsibility to operate our pipelines in a safe manner really seriously. This program is statewide across our entire service area, and it's paid for entirely by shareholder dollars. Our ratepayers aren't covering the cost of this. We want to make sure this program is done right. We want to make sure that our pipeline is safe and that the community is safe as well. And to accomplish that goal, it's going to require frequent communication with the city, the council, the staff, as well as our customers. I know that my time's limited this evening and you guys have had a long meeting already, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have. In conclusion, thank you for allowing me the time to present PG&E's pipeline safety program.
Thank you. I'm sure we've got quite a few questions, but I'll let the Vice Mayor go first.
All right. Joe, on that map it showed, I think Queens Avenue was one of the areas where there were trees that perhaps would be invasive. And we've got quite a large canopy of trees there. What can be done to protect that canopy of trees? Are we looking at maybe moving the pipelines, or how would we deal with a situation like that?
So that's a great question. That's actually one of the areas that the city manager and public works director brought up. And it was one of the areas that we identified early on as we were analyzing the conflicts. So there are things that we can do as we work with the city to mitigate those removals. In fact, we can do increased pipeline patrols. We can look at how close the trees are to the pipeline and determine the threat level. In this case, we have run that through our model and determined that those trees on Queens Avenue can actually stay. And we will be pursuing those mitigation options.
All right. And then I would like to discuss some other items with you after the meeting, if we can, if you can stick around too, that are not on the agenda tonight.
Of course.
So, thank you.
Other questions?
I meant to infer that in all likelihood, the movement of a gas line is probably not going to happen. In most cases.
In most cases, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just had a question. You guys did some major repairs up in the Loma Crossing area as well. Just recently, just finished that up. Was that basically due to same thing that you're seeing here is the pipeline needed some major repairs there? Was that one of the hot green spots that you had there?
Actually, no. These green spots are all conflicts that we've identified, mostly vegetation. The project that you're referring to is a pipeline replacement that we identified the line due to just the age and capacity issues. We went ahead and replaced last year.
Okay.
So that was part of the work that we've been continually doing.
So if the green is obviously your vegetation stuff that you have and you've done your survey, have you provided a list to the city at all as far as what areas that you feel within the city are danger at this point in time, that pipelines that need immediate repair or replacement?
So that's a great question. What we've done is we have given the city a list of all the areas that we've identified. And we communicated to the city public works director that we would be going back through and performing that threat level assessment. And that's what we are actually doing this week. So we will be following back up with the city before any work is done to say, hey, these are the threat levels in these different areas. What do you think? So this is going to be a very collaborative process. We want to make sure that the city is happy as well as PG&E's pipeline is safe.
Great, thank you.
To the mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, one additional question. Joe, the going forward with new development, what can be done working with the city to prevent planting of trees that would be invasive to the pipelines and then also to overhead power lines in the city?
That's actually a very good question. So part of this program includes education of our customers as well as our agency partners in terms of what is the right tree for the right place. Pretty much everybody knows it's a bad idea to plant a sequoia tree underneath the transmission line.
But it happens.
And it does happen. So that's going to be part of our ongoing educational program. And then as we continue our patrols through our easement and along our gas lines, we will identify those conflicts before they get to be too large.
Right. Good.
Okay.
Go back to that map. Those are all the lines we have.
Those are all the high pressure gas transmission lines.
All the where you have really thick lines like Sunsweet, Sunflood, Rose, those are all landscaping young trees.
That's correct. So those were landscaping shrubs, trees that were put in the wrong spot. So we'll be working with those individual business owners to see what we can do to remove those conflicts and replace them in a different location in accordance with city standards. And we had a conversation with your public works director. We're going to be meeting with the community development agency to make sure that we still meet the shading and screening standards.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, thank you very much. This is just for note and file.